talk about a very, very important topic in today's AI economy is all about authority. We're going to talk about that how can earned PR help you build authority? Because in the past people used to talk about that how can we get PR mentions and things like that, but people never talked about authority building through PR, and that is the topic of the today's presentation. And I believe that this is a very important topic because there are fewer ways to build your credibility, and credibility is extremely important because AI platforms and consumer alike are looking for reason why they should trust you. Trust is going to be the biggest currency in future, and for that, credibility and authority are very, very important. Before we talk about that, let's talk about BrandLoom a little bit. So, for your introduction, we are a 11-year-old ROI-driven branding, digital design, and intelligence company. We have been working with 100 plus brands across the globe with our 7 branch offices. So, that is a short introduction of BrandLoom. Here is our vision. BrandLoom enables businesses to build meaningful connections with their audiences and achieve sustainable growth in the evolving digital economy. And here is our mission to apply branding, digital design, and intelligence capabilities to help businesses improve visibility, customer experience, business performance, and measurable growth. And I'm sure this must be making clear that why are we talking about earned media to build credibility. These are some of our values that we cherish. This is our cultural driver, which is do the right thing, even when no one is watching, depend on each other, develop self and others, drive efforts like an entrepreneur, finally, to deliver results as committed. So, let us go back to the discussion that we started off with, and I'm going to throw some more light on this particular topic. If you look at in today's market, the we are in a visibility trap. Everybody think that we are going to if we are getting mentioned, we are getting trusted. But please note, getting mentioned is not equal to getting being trusted. Yes, if you get mentioned somewhere, yeah, people saw you, but does it mean they trust you? You can look at visibility which might be negative in nature, and that's obviously going to erode trust in your brand. But even if you're getting mentioned positively, does it mean that you are going to get trusted? For me and for us at BrandLoom, getting mentioned can give your brand reach, recognition, and validation. But none of this automatically translates into authority. At BrandLoom, we believe that PR should not end when the article is published. This is essentially where the authority building process begins. So just because you got a PR mention, don't feel happy, do a party and close the box. I think that's when the journey actually starts. So the PR article got you reach, recognition, and validation that okay, you have some merit. But let us use that to build authority. So what we say is that in future, stop counting mentions. Don't count how many publications you got featured in, how many mentions you got. Don't simply measure share of voice. You know what we say is that you need to also ask whether that article helped you change the market perception that you so desire. Let's say, for example, if you want your brand to be positioned in certain way, ask yourself, is your peer article helping you getting your brand positioned in that manner? Does that mention covering you in that slide? Otherwise, what will happen that your mention is there, but it will not help your brand move in the positive direction, or the perception will not get built. Okay, so it is very important that we pay attention to that. I agree that third party validation matters. And if a newspaper says that that you are experts, that's very useful. Okay. But what is a real market signal? A real market signal is a credible publication, expert or customer or industry voice, independently recognizing that you are an expert. So just because an article added you in a quote is not enough. It has to be mentioned, it has to cover you in the right manner. So try to drive those kind of interactions, those kind of mentions. And earned media is a very, very powerful mechanism to make people believe that you are credible. So, say for example, if you want to be seen as an AI expert, and the article positions you as an AI expert in a specific domain or a specific area, and they include you or they talk about you, that's what makes sense. Otherwise, if it is not like that, then it has uh, literally very little meaning. So, what we are saying is that from earn media to earn authority, how are you doing? How are you moving? Okay, an article is a signal. It's a single moment of visibility. A repeated mentions like that becomes a pattern. And when those in those patterns your expertise is showcased, that's when it becomes a reputation. Okay, so basically it is nothing but mentions along with mention of your expertise or coverage of you along with your expertise. Okay, the moment this starts to become a reputation and a pattern along with your expertise, it start to convert into a kind of authority. People start to consider you as an authority. You might have to, you might have to showcase that expertise, you might have to build that expertise multiple times so that people start to think that you're an authority or a credible force in that area. So essentially what we are saying is that authority is created by consistency and strategic coherence with the positioning signals that you want to communicate in the market. If an article talks about you but tells a different story, or say something else which you don't want, or say something positive but that's not the direction you want to take, it is not going to help you in the long run. So an article should position you, and your visibility should be driven by your brand positioning. That's why when it will lead to authority and credibility. So let us talk about the authority gap today. Okay, what happens that today, generally media first PR, what happens is that we pitch to the media house, they cover you, they report, and then they move on, right? That's a typical PR cycle. That's what everybody sees today. But if you but if you want to build authority first PR, what you will do is that you will not start with the pitch. You will start with the position. What is the position that you desire? You will find a way to prove that you stand for that positioning. So you will find a model or a perspective or a reason to believe to prove that positioning. That's when you will place it in media. That's what you will go and pitch to media. That's what you will talk about. That's where you will build opportunities to position, communicate that position. Once you have done that, you will not move on. You will amplify it. You will talk about that mention. You will talk about that mention in social media. You will talk about that mention on a website. Okay, you will share with your customers. Okay, so you will basically amplify, and you will keep on reinforcing it by doing other things. Probably you will write articles, you will write social post, and things like that. And then finally, you will start to measure it. And measuring it is very important to understand what kind of reverberance you got of that particular news article or a piece. Okay, please. One more thing I want to tell you is that before repurposing your coverage, identify What do you want to be known for? That's very, very important. And who needs to believe it? And what kind of proof make that belief credible? And what third party voices can validate it? Once you have done this entire exercise, and then when you start authority first PR, that's when it will be successful. Otherwise, spraying and praying is not a strategy. Okay, so this is what brings us to BrandLoom framework for earned PR. Okay, our framework talks about six stages primarily that build credibility and authority for your brand. One is positioning, and any brand owner or any marketing person, if you're seeing this, I can't overemphasize the role of brand positioning. This is your direction, this is your guiding light, this is your north star. So that has to be clearly articulated. If it is not, please take a break, think about it, document it, clarify it, and then move on. What is the position you want to take? How you want that article to position you? Okay, what are the proofs you have to do that? Are there any credible proofs that you can bring forward? Then look for the placement. Which are the right media vehicles to carry it? Identify them, pitch to them, and once you get successfully mentioned, amplify it. Reach out to your client, share with the client, share on social media. And once you started with multiple amount of times, association starts to get built. And associate once association start to get built, you start to get compounding benefit. So that's the way go about it. Okay, so I already covered this entire thing in detail in the first chart itself. So this is our brand loom's earned authority flywheel. And once you do that, the cycle starts to rule. Okay, hey, please remember, don't change the position every article. It that is something which is consistent. You should be able to substantiate that with a proof. Okay, one more thing which I want to point out here is this, that it is important to own a territory before you chase coverage. If you don't know what how you want to position yourself, and you are just saying, I just want media mentions, I want Times of India to cover me, I want ET to cover me, absolutely no point. Absolutely no point. Your mention has to be relevant to your market. It has to be credible for your brand, and it has to be distinctive enough to own. Don't build a me too positioning anyway. When you are positioning your brand, it has to be unique position. So that's the basic tenet of positioning. Okay, so once you do that, then it start to make sense. So basically what we are saying that you are turning your expertise into proof. So you say position with proof, that's your expertise. When you turn that expertise into proof, it becomes very, very powerful combination. Why? Because you can bring original data, you can showcase experience, you can show case studies, you can show expert perspective, and you can demonstrate outcomes. Once you do that, your positioning converts into a credible story, or a credible or authoritative story. Okay, and this is how you can build a third party validation network. Reach out to business media, trade publications, and many times what I've seen that brands forget the trade publication. Trade publications are, yes, they're smaller media vehicles. They might not have very, very big power, but when you use them, you reach out to your industry peers, and that is something which is very important. Reach out to industry experts, talk to them about yourself, reach out to them, pitch to them, saying that hey, you want to be on one of the blog, one of the podcast. Why? Because you have a proof out there. Okay, reach out to customers and partners, tell them about your positioning, tell them about your coverage, and let them also share their perspective to it. Analysts and researchers, and founders and executive voices, human authority. So this is something which is very very important, and this is what will help you build a third party validation network. In terms of amplification, how do you make earned media work faster? Like I talked about, that once you have original publication, you put it on a website, newsroom, case study, put it in a sales decks, put in future articles, okay? Talk about in your founders LinkedIn content and things like that. That's how you make your earned media work harder. And after you have done it, build authority scorecard, not a coverage report. How do you build authority scorecard? Number one, for every article, how relevant it is. Two, in perspective, your positioning. Okay, you can define your own scale. Okay, from 0 to 100. How credible that story is. Message association. How strongly you are associated with that message. Executive visibility. Whether your team member, your CEO, your CXO got featured there. Whether it has got any search visibility. Is that article visible in search engines? And finally, business influence. Is it going to influence any business outcome? This is how you can build authority scorecard. And again, many of you might be thinking that how do I measure relevance or credibility? Well, the point is that apply the same yardstick. Not every not everything can be extremely black and white. In business, you have to live in the gray zone and you have to start measuring things. You apply a yardstick and start measuring it. What you want to do is that you want to move in the right direction. Every earned media you want to move forward. That's what you are trying to check. Okay, so that's why it is important to have your own yardstick. And here are the six authority signals, like we talked about, where you can report on relevance, obviously, credibility, message association, executive visibility, search visibility, and business influences. That's a detailed version. Okay, so here is our brand loom authority equation. Authority is all about positioning, which gets amplified with proof, which gets amplified with credibility, which gets further amplified with consistency. And when you do it over a period of time, it multiplies. And this entire thing helps you build authority. Okay. And this is what we call as earned authority. So what we are saying is that don't live in the world where you're only measuring earned mentions. Also start calculating earned authority. And that is what is very, very important for you and your brand. Okay. That's what I wanted to talk about in this presentation today. Thank you. So let me see if there are any questions. So I think today's presentation was very, very clear. So there are no questions as such. But if any one of you have any question at any point of time, feel free to reach out to us. And at BrandLoom, we are here to help you. Take care. Bye bye.